You guys are all finding your seats. Just please know how excited we are that you're here, that we can share this day together. We are really looking forward to everything that we're going to accomplish today. My name is Kristen Bradley, and I have the privilege of being a faith community nurse here at Trinity, and I get to intentionally help people take care of their minds, bodies, and spirits. We think mental health is kind of important, especially in the last couple of years, and at least is much more able to be talked about, and we would like to normalize and destigmatize. So Trinity's mental health group and Westminster's pastoral staff and mental health staff have created this event for us. We are working within some interfaith standing together partner groups with the Temple Emmanuel and the Islamic Center, Masjid At-Tawhid. And so we all pray for each other, we learn about each other's differences, but we also celebrate all of our commonalities, and mental health is definitely something that we all share. So we're very grateful to do this together in community. When we identified mental health as a high priority, we came up with today's event so that we can bring light, education, and awareness to mental health and illness individually, but as a whole as well. I get to be the logistics gal. So you probably found the bathrooms. They're in the main hall as you walked in. Obviously, it's better to have your phones on silence so that we don't get any extra noise. Should we have to evacuate, there's an exit over here, out there, down the hall. Probably received this when you came in. If not, there are more by the registration table. It shows us the general time frame of what's going on today, and there it is. So that we can kind of keep on track. We really have a lot of things we're trying to accomplish today, lots of different things going on, so we'll try really hard to stay on track. And I get to have Jen Porter, who is Reverend at Westminster Presbyterian, come and get us started with some centering.
Welcome, everyone. Cindy's a little taller than I am, so I'll adjust so you can pull it back up for your turn. Good. Well, welcome. We have all decided to come here on a Saturday morning in May, and I'm guessing there are some other things we could have chosen to do today, but we are here with the shared intention of turning toward our health and our wholeness and talking and learning about how we can tend our mind and care for ourselves and others. So since it's a Saturday morning, sometimes it's good to wake up a little bit, right? We've started to listen, and so we've started to engage our minds. But if we really want to be present, it's good to also engage our bodies too. So as we seek to be here and to listen and to let whatever we hear speak into our lives, we're going to start by doing a centering practice, right? We can learn different ways of doing that by paying attention to our breath and checking in with our bodies. And our goal is to slow down a little bit, to pause for a minute, and to kind of set our own intention and hope for our time together. So in a minute, I'm going to have us do pretty much just that. Take some breaths, check in with ourselves, and then I'm going to lead us through a couple times of just slowly raising our hands up. We're going to move them up real slowly and intentionally, kind of, right? Like, let ourselves be here. And as we raise them, we're going to hold them reaching up and reaching out for all that is beyond our knowing and understanding, reaching for the love and the hope and the goodness and God's presence that's always beyond and always more. And then we'll lower our hands, moving them down slowly, and maybe even kind of leaning our heads forward and really leaning into being present to this moment, to receiving the goodness and the love and God's presence that is always right here with us as well. So we'll do a few of those and then kind of sit in our intention for the morning. So So as we begin, I invite you to participate in this in whatever way makes sense to your own heart and your own faith. So we can call it slowing down, we can call it centering and checking in with ourselves, or we can call it prayer. Whatever way you want to join in, do so as you feel comfortable. So I invite you to close your eyes and get into a comfortable position for yourself. And as we do, to take a few deep breaths and to let your inhalation fill, and then as you exhale, to let it out even slower than you breathed in. And just at your own pace, take a few breaths. And then just notice your body. Notice how it feels sitting in your chair, how your feet feel on the floor. Notice any places where you're holding tension. You don't need to change anything, just notice. And then still with our eyes closed, we'll slowly raise our hands up until they're reached up high, reaching out to all that is beyond our knowing. And then we very slowly bring them down. And give ourselves to noticing this present moment, noticing the goodness, God's presence that is always right here. And again, we raise our hands slowly. Reaching for all that is not yet realized. And we lower them. Noticing what we have received. And one more time, we slowly raise our hands up. And slowly lower them again. And resting our hands in our laps, we sit and notice our own intention and hope for this time together this morning. May each of those intentions find life and meaning as we continue together. And as you are ready, you may open your eyes. And one last thing to do together as we center and draw our presence here. So I invite you to stand up. And we're going to together, in a second, raise up on the balls of our feet and say, I am, and then come down onto our heels and say, here. And we'll do that 3 times all together. So let's do that. I am here. I am here. I am here. So we are here together. And sometimes that is the most important thing for us to know and the most important place for us to be. I have a colleague who really leans into that when he's facing some anxiety and stomps and jumps and says, I am here, I am here. But that's another simple practice to ground ourselves and remind ourselves of just where we are. So thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you, Jen. We're going to learn lots of helpful things this morning, and you've gotten us off to a very good start. Karina Dulecki, who is the mastermind behind how this brainstorming for this event got started, is our Health Ministries chairperson, and she has the privilege of introducing our keynote speaker.
So like Kristen said, my name is Karina Dulecki, and I'm so excited that I was able to, that I am able to introduce to you our keynote speaker today. As Kristen also mentioned, we were doing a lot of brainstorming. What did we want to see happen? And then it came to who do we want to have as a main speaker. And one of our Westminster friends threw out a name. So of course, like everybody does, we start Googling. And when I Googled Dr. Cindy Koch, I knew right away, I was like, yes, this is exactly who we're looking for. So when I made the call, kept my fingers crossed, and we were so thankful that she said yes, that she would be able to join us this morning. So I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Cindy Koch, who is a psychotherapist with over 30 years of experience working with individuals, groups, couples, and families. She earned her PhD in clinical psychology from Purdue University and her master's degree in social work from Michigan State University. She's fully licensed as a psychologist in the state of Michigan and is a member of the American Psychological Association. She has extensive experience working in the college and university settings and was employed as the director of the Counseling Center at Calvin and has also worked as a counselor at Pine Rest. But in addition to the clinical work, she also enjoys teaching, where she's taught a variety of courses at many universities, including Calvin, Purdue, and MSU. She's also presented at churches, conferences, and workshops, both locally and across the U.S. And on a more fun note, she is a native of Michigan and has lived and worked in locations all over the country. She is married and enjoys spending time with family and friends, whether traveling, hiking, or enjoying the arts. So please take this opportunity to help me welcome Dr. Koch.
There we go. And let me get it to my height. Okay. I'm going to begin today by telling you what you already know. This has been a stressful 2+ years. And it's not over yet, even though we're really ready for it to be over. It's the 2-year anniversary, and a little more. In March was the 2-year anniversary of COVID-19, our first introduction to it. And in these last 2+ years, we've all experienced widespread grief and a sense of loss. In a recent survey, 63% of adults said their life has been forever changed by the pandemic. Let's layer on top of that, we've been living for 2+ years with a pandemic. let's layer on top of that, we've also been living with national and world events. And I'm just going to name a few of them. There are a lot. I could spend probably the whole session naming them. So I'm just going to name a few. The rising cost of daily living due to inflation, racial violence, immigration, political divisions, and then global uncertainty, wars, and a new war in Ukraine, shortages of baby formula, and chips. Who knew how important chips were in our lives and how many things function because of chips, microchips in refrigerators and cars and not potato chips. I'm sorry to concern you unnecessarily. I think we're fine with potato chips. No need to rush out. You can stay in. Yeah. And then let's layer on top of that personal life events, right? So, relatives who are hospitalized or deaths or stress at work so this layering for the last 2+ years of COVID, national and world events, and our personal life challenges that would have happened probably regardless of what other things were going on. We have been dealing with a lot in the last 2+ years. I don't know if you knew this, Karina, when you planned this, but May is Mental Health Awareness Month. She did know it. She is on top of things. I discovered it as I was doing this, like, oh, how appropriate. I'm going to play for you a video of Dr. Deborah Pennells. She's the Director of Behavioral Health for Michigan, and she is introducing Mental Health Awareness Month.
Mental Health Awareness Month has been observed in the United States for the past 73 years. The month is traditionally devoted to helping people understand there is no shame in seeking help for mental health issues. There is still stigma associated with mental illness that remains a barrier for individuals who may be afraid to acknowledge that they need help. So Awareness Month is a good time for us all, especially in the context of the pandemic-related stress, to take a moment to recognize how critical our mental well-being is and how important it is to not stay isolated, shut down, and under the covers. We have learned a lot over the last couple of years about how to keep ourselves balanced by eating well, getting enough sleep, engaging in positive activities, and practicing gratitude to help us feel happier. However, recent surveys show that about 30% of people in Michigan have been reporting significant anxiety or depression, and 4 in 10 teenagers across the U.S. report feeling persistently sad or hopeless. Meanwhile, stress, anxiety, and burnout are rampant among healthcare and public health workers. In recognizing this, take a pause to reflect on how you are feeling. Make sure you honor your own mental well-being. And if your struggles feel overwhelming, remember, it's okay to reach out. Professional support is available to help you cope. For more information and a wealth of resources, visit michigan.gov/staywell. And thank you for all your hard work, and thank you for listening.
So let's talk about, I named these stressors. Let's talk about how these stressors are affecting our mental health and well-being. Depression has doubled in the past 2 years, and anxiety has tripled. We've seen increased alcohol consumption, according to a recent study from the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism. Between 2019 and 2020, there was a 25% increase in alcohol-related deaths. Normally in the past, the average increase has been like a little bit more than 2% or around that number. The expectation by the Institute is that between 2020 and 2021, we will see a similar increase or similar amounts of alcohol-related deaths. We've also seen things like weight gain, more divorces, and there's been a 5% individual increase in the prevalence of loneliness worldwide. So let's look at then how these stressors affect our nervous system. As we deal with the minding our mind, I thought I would pay attention to the mind as our brain in this conversation. How do these stressors affect our nervous system? Our nervous system responds automatically when it perceives threat. And the goal of our nervous system is to keep us safe and alive. Okay, so it's a pretty important function that our nervous system has. Our nervous system is divided into two pieces. There's the autonomic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system, when threat is detected, it automatically responds with either fight or flight. Either get out of here or I'm going to fight my way out, okay? It's a protective stance that sends us into a high state of arousal. I mean, we're ready to go, we're ready to fight. Our parasympathetic nervous system is activated when the frontal cortex sends a message that we're safe, that the threat has subsided. And then the parasympathetic nervous system calms the system and returns us to an optimal state of arousal. Okay, so we're ready to go, but in an optimal state. Let me give you a personal example of this. I was walking with my husband and my dog. Our friends in Virginia had a farm, and we were walking on the farm. And we were just walking. I was talking with my husband. The dog was running up ahead, and all of a sudden I jumped. My autonomic nervous system was activated. I was ready to flee. Jumped back. Then my parasympathetic nervous system took over. My frontal cortex was able to notice, oh, this is a snake running across the path. And this snake is not a dangerous snake. And this snake is going away from me. It's not coming towards me. And then my parasympathetic nervous system was able to bring that state of arousal to a normal place. The reason I like that example so much is it really reinforces how automatic this is, right? Our nervous systems, in fact, even before I recognized that it was a snake, I was jumping back. Our nervous systems are responding as they should right now to the chronic stress of living in a pandemic, living in an uncertain world, while we continue to experience our own personal challenges and losses. No wonder we're all at a high state of arousal, right? That autonomic nervous system is activated as it should be. It's activated because of real and ongoing threat. Now, while we can't eliminate all stressors and their impact on our minds, bodies, and spirits, we can identify strategies to manage stress and to build resilience. And that's what I'm going to spend the rest of our time today talking about. So I want to talk about enhancing our mental well-being. How do we do that in this place we're living right now of high arousal? 3 strategies I want us to focus on today. One is to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, again, to bring our systems back to an optimal zone of arousal. One is to cultivate happiness or joy. And the third is to gauge in long-term self-care strategies, therapeutic lifestyle changes. Let's start with the first, activating the parasympathetic nervous system. And Jen did some nice work with us prior to this, to my presentation, in helping us to activate our parasympathetic nervous systems. Okay? So to help soothe ourselves, to help us get to that optimal zone of arousal, here are some things we can do. We can take a breath, focusing on a long exhale. And what I'm doing, I'm not going to have you do it again since Jen did such a nice job for us with it, but to say that what was happening in terms of our brain, our nervous systems, is that when we were doing that with Jen, we were activating our parasympathetic nervous system. And specifically with a long exhale, that activates the parasympathetic nervous system. Other things that we can do to activate the parasympathetic nervous system is to focus on our senses. When we do that, focusing on our senses bypasses the thinking brain and goes to our senses, which helps to calm, which helps to bring us back to that optimal zone of arousal. So some things like lighting a scented candle and paying attention to the scent, listening to music, watching birds, running your hands under warm water. Those are things that help us to focus on the senses and activate the parasympathetic nervous system. We can also be intentional about doing a 5 senses exercise. And so what you can do is find 5 things that you see, name them as you see them, 4 things that you feel, 3 things that you hear, 2 things that you smell, and 1 thing that you taste. And so consciously doing the 5 senses exercise to help activate the parasympathetic nervous system. You can also use your body. I was looking for a different word than use, and Jen said engage the body. I'm like, that's the word I was looking for. You can engage your body to help, again, bring you to that optimal zone of arousal. Putting your feet on the floor when you're sitting, having both feet on the floor, helps to ground you, to feel your feet on the floor, the 4 corners of your feet, your toes, your heel, the sides. Helps to ground you. If you think about it, when I was preparing this talk this morning, when I was reviewing it this morning, I noticed as I got to this point that I was sitting on my chair at the edge on the tip of my toes. All right, what's the message that's sending to my brain? Fight, flight, right? Get ready to go, right? And so I thought, oops, yep, get my whole foot on the ground to ground me, to again send a message of safety to my nervous system. Soothing touch is something that can give us a sense of safety. So, rubbing your arm, putting your hand on your heart, some of the things Jen was having us do with cupping our hands or holding our hands in our laps, right? These things that are soothing and give our body a sense of safety and help us to feel grounded. Another thing we can do, I love this phrase that psychologists use, name it, tame it. And so naming what it is, naming the emotion that we're feeling, actually tames it. It helps our brains sort of like grasp what it is. It's what I did at the beginning when I named all this stuff that we're dealing with, right? It actually can be helpful to name it, because in the process we tame it. So when we do that, we're activating the thinking brain, which can help quiet the nervous system, okay? So maybe we name, this is anxiety. I see what this is. Of course. Which is what the experience I wanted you to have when I named all these things. Of course we're in a place of heightened anxiety. Of course we're feeling stress. Of course, and I see what this is. Let's move to cultivating happiness, joy. First, I want to talk about what gets in the way of happiness. Rick Hansen is a neuropsychologist, and I love this saying that he has. He says, the brain is like Velcro for negative experiences and Teflon for positive ones. He says in the process, then, we get this growing residue of emotional pain, pessimism, and numbing because our brain's latching on to the negative experiences. Now, I see some young people in the audience, so for those of you who are young and have no idea what Teflon is, Teflon is a nonstick coating on pans. And so it's like it slips right off, right? It just, our brains don't grab onto the positive ones. It slips right off the pan, just like when you fry an egg and you can toss it onto your plate because it's a Teflon coating. So given the negativity bias of the brain, we have to take effort to internalize positive experiences. They're not going to stick. That's the way our brains are made. And if you think about it, it helps keep us safe, right? If we need to avoid the negative stuff in order to stay safe, the positive stuff will come around again. But it doesn't do a whole lot for our mental health and well-being that this positive stuff just slips right off. So we have to take effort to internalize these positive experiences and to heal the negative ones. When you tilt towards what's positive, you're actually righting a neurological imbalance. So we've got this imbalance. We need to pay attention to the positive things that are going on. I often use the example of wearing bifocals. That you're able to, we're not talking about, being a Pollyanna who only sees the positive and doesn't see the negative, but that we're able to shift our attention. And that what our brains actually do is like have us wear a single lens glasses where we're only seeing the negative. And what we want to do with correcting this negativity bias is be able to wear bifocals where we can also shift our attention and see the positive as well as the negative things that are happening. So let's talk about a couple ways to correct the negativity bias of the brain. One is savoring. So paying attention to pleasant thoughts, sensations, and emotions in the present moment, and intentionally prolonging and deepening the pleasure. Examples. Let yourself enjoy a compliment. Let it seep in. And if you really want to savor it, write it down so that later you can go back and read it and say, oh yes, that was pleasant. Taste your delicious lunch. Take a photo. One day I was coming out of D&W and I saw someone taking a photo in the parking lot, and I looked like, what is she taking a photo of? It was this gorgeous sunset, right? I don't know if I would have noticed the gorgeous sunset had she not been taking a photo. Her taking a photo was a way of savoring this. Isn't this beautiful? So it helps her to savor it in the moment. And again, later when she looks back at her photos, to again be reminded of the goodness, the joy of that moment. And again, if we really want to savor something, share the experience with another person. Oh, I received the nicest compliment from a friend today, and share that with your spouse or your child, or right, to share that experience. So let's talk about cultivating happiness and joy. I'm going to show you a video from the Michigan.gov Stay Well program. I'm going to put up some resources for you at the end of my talk so you can look at more of these if you'd like to. But let's look together at this Cultivating Joy and Gratitude.
Welcome to Cultivating Joy, a video series produced by the Stay Well program. I'm Erin Wallace, and today's topic is gratitude and joy. It's no secret that the COVID-19 pandemic has challenged us in ways many of us have never experienced. According to a study published in 2020 by the Associated Press, Americans are the unhappiest they've been in 50 years. When you're unhappy or stressed or anxious, it can be hard to feel grateful. One way to work through these emotions and cultivate more joy in your life is to practice gratitude. Let's break this down. Webster's dictionary says gratitude is the quality of being thankful, readiness to show appreciation for, and to return kindness. Gratitude is a thankful appreciation for what an individual receives, whether tangible or intangible. People who practice gratitude acknowledge the goodness in their lives. Gratitude can help people feel more positive emotions, relish good experiences, improve their health, deal with adversity, and build strong relationships. When we receive gratitude from others, we're more likely to show gratitude to others. Scientists have discovered that even animals as diverse as fish, birds, and bats engage in what's called reciprocal altruism activities. This is when an animal takes action to help another of their species and the other reciprocates. Gratitude is an emotional state and an attitude toward life that can be a source of strength and enhancing one's personal and relational well-being. Gratitude is also an affirmation of goodness. It's the idea that the world and the people in it are good, just as you are. Research shows that some people are more naturally optimistic or show gratitude more. This can be the result of genetics, environment, and development. But even if you're a glass half empty type of person, that's okay. As Oprah Winfrey once said, it's not easy being grateful all the time, but it's when you feel the least thankful that you're most in need of what gratitude can give you. In fact, research also shows that gratitude may even help people who have experienced serious traumas, such as spending time in combat, experiencing natural disasters, or suffering significant life-threatening experiences during a pandemic. Knowing the science that supports gratitude is one thing, but let's be real. Sometimes actually practicing what we know is good for us is easier said than done, especially when you're experiencing low energy or high anxiety. Tell yourself there's always something in this world you can appreciate, even if just for a moment. We learn and grow from adversities. Think back on some of your own experiences and try to see how they helped shape you into the person you are today and how you can be grateful for this. The really nice thing about gratitude is that it's incredibly low effort. There's no special technique to learn and no serious time investment. There's also no right or wrong way to practice gratitude. So, how can you get started? One way to begin is through an affirmation of gratitude practice with the goal of starting and ending every day on a positive note. Take a few minutes every day to write down what you're grateful for. One of the best times to create your list is before you fall asleep at night. Not only will you go to bed thinking grateful thoughts, but you'll also wake up starting to think them. Another way to start noticing the goodness around you is to keep a gratitude journal. If you're feeling stuck or not sure where to start with journaling, try answering these questions. Eventually, thinking about how there's always something to be thankful for will keep you on the lookout for goodness and kind-heartedness. Also, if you feel gratitude towards someone else, tell them. Gratitude strengthens our relationships with others and it can be contagious. If you practice gratitude daily, you can rewire your brain to be more naturally grateful, and you'll start feeling happier each time you do it. We've learned through research that it only takes 8 weeks of gratitude practice for people to start showing changed patterns that lead to greater empathy and happiness. Training yourself to express gratitude is a great way to begin feeling more positive emotions and cultivating more joy in your life. While you can feel immediate results from this, keep in mind that it's a practice. To really change your outlook takes time and patience. Thanks for watching. Please note, if you're struggling substantially, we urge you to seek professional mental health services. Information and resources are available at michigan.gov/staywell. And remember, if you need someone to talk to, call the Stay Well counseling line at 1-888-535-6136 and press 8.
Right, so then in terms of enhancing well-being, we've discussed activating the parasympathetic nervous system. We just talked about cultivating happiness and joy. Now we want to talk about some more long-term self-care strategies. Think of these things as like regularly scheduled maintenance, like weeding a garden, to keep yourself healthy over the long term. So Walsh, in 2011, that's a while ago now, but still a good article, published this article where he identified 8 therapeutic lifestyle changes that had empirical evidence for promoting mental health and well-being. None of the things on this list are going to surprise you today. You're not going to say, oh, I didn't know that was something that would help me. The reason I'm bringing it to you today is to let you know these things that we know are helpful, or these things that we sense are helpful, there's empirical evidence that they are helpful things for people in general. And I like to list them and talk with them so that you can see, am I doing these things? Do I want to do more of one of these things? Is there something I'm not doing that I think, oh, that appeals to me, that could be helpful to me? And also just to know when you are engaging in these lifestyle activities, for you to know, I'm doing something that's good for my mental health and well-being. Sometimes we're sort of like, I don't know what I should do. When you're doing these things, you're doing something that benefits you. So let me just kind of talk through them with you. Exercise. The last 20 years, so much evidence has come out about the benefits of regular exercise for our mental health and well-being. In fact, we've discovered that for some people, regular exercise is as effective as antidepressant medication in helping to manage anxiety and depression. Low cost. It is high effort to do exercise. I can't say low effort. It is high effort, but low cost. And we definitely see benefits. The standard recommendation in order to see benefits is 3 times 30 minutes each time to get some of those benefits that we're looking for in managing depression and anxiety. And they don't, there's not one exercise that's better than another. My advice always is find something you enjoy doing so that it's not, oh, I have to do this, but when can I get out on my bike, When can I find that time? So find the things you enjoy and do those things. Nutrition and diet, Dr. Pennell's in the introductory one that I did, video that I showed you for mental health, she talked about that and showed again the healthy foods and nutrition and the importance of that for our mental health and well-being. Nature. Numerous studies have shown that exposure to nature can counter depression, decrease stress levels, improve blood pressure, and boost creative and cognitive abilities. Wow, that's a lot that nature has a lot going for it. The standard recommendation is to spend at least 2 hours in nature each week and at least 20 minutes each time to maximize those health benefits. Okay, so again, knowing when we're outdoors in nature, we're doing something that's good for our mental health and well-being. Relationships, so important, and that's even been connected with increasing length of life. There have been studies that show that. So again, the importance of having meaningful relationships in our life. Recreation and enjoyable activities. Again, doing the things that you like, whether it's bike riding or doing puzzles or playing card games, right? Whatever it is, but engaging in those things. Relaxation and stress management. So Jen led us through a meditation this morning. That would be something that would fit with relaxation and stress management. Yoga, Tai Chi, Zen doodling, walking a labyrinth. So some of these opportunities that are available to you today will be examples of relaxation and stress management. Religious and spiritual involvement. I'm speaking to a group of people who belong to faith communities. So this is something that that comes easily for you, knowing again that this has an impact on your mental health and well-being. Belonging to and serving something that we believe is bigger than ourselves provides us with a sense of perspective and meaning. Engaging in practices that promote connection with God and others, again, noticing that relationships that I talked about earlier, that was important. We have, as faith communities, practices that we engage in that connect us in relationships with God and others, like worship, practices of gratitude, practices of prayer. And our religious and spiritual involvement provide us with opportunities to reflect on the meaning and purpose of our lives. And if I bring it back to this present day where we find ourselves right now, give us a space to ask the question, how are we to live during this time? What does it look like to live as faithful people, as people of faith during this time? And then finally, contribution and service. Focusing our attention away from ourselves by practicing acts of kindness is actually good for our mental health and well-being, as well as for the others to whom we show those acts of kindness. In summary, for the past 2+ years, we've all experienced stress, a lot of stress. These years have been hard, and it continues to be hard. It makes sense that we're experiencing more depression, anxiety, weight gain and alcohol abuse, relationship challenges and isolation. Of course. We do not have the ability to eradicate all these stressors. It would be nice if we could, and if I knew the secret, I would share it with you. We can tend to ourselves and to each other, and that's the purpose of coming together today. I hope that you will hear something today that you can take away with you, a small change that will help you to mind your mind and stay centered in today's world. That's my wish for you today. And here is a list of some resources of things that I drew from when I talked with you and things that might be helpful to you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much. That was really beneficial. The analogies are awesome. And cultivating, that word, I love that word because we all want to be somewhere, but you can't be somewhere until you plant the seed and grow. So we can practice these things and cultivate. That was a really good video. If you came in when a lot of people were coming in, make sure that you've had a chance to check out the wristband table. think it's a very cool project we're working on that you'll hear more about in our closing. We have 11 organizations who are graciously giving up their time this morning to provide mental health care resources to you. So if there's anything you haven't checked out, please do that in between, and thank them for being here. And we'll see you in your breakouts at 10 o'clock. Thank you.